So first of all, I'd like to say thank you to the Coronach Business Networking Group for inviting us in to talk to you. My name is Claudette Palmier. I work in the Assiniboia office for Stark and Marsh. I was born and raised in La Flèche, so I've lived in this area all my life. I'm not going to say for how many years, but I've been in the field of public practice for 32 years, and I was self-employed for 25 of those years. The area that I tend to work in the most is business and corporate year-ends and personal returns. With my own business, it was getting to be that I was on overload. I was a single mom raising an autistic child by myself. And he was nearing age 18, and I knew it was time for a change or else I was going to burn out. And one day Stark and Marsh showed up at my door offering tax advisory services to the small practices. And I kind of looked at them and said, well, yes, I need a larger firm to give me tax advisory services, but why don't you just buy me out instead and I'll come and work for you? And it seemed like a long shot because I didn't have a building to sell. I operated out of the basement of my home. And my business had literally taken over 2/3 of my home, the entire basement. Most of the upstairs also had files stored there. I had sheds outside for storage. My son used to say everywhere but the bathroom. And but lo and behold, after a few years of talking back and forth, they did decide to buy me out, so I sold my client files to them, and as of September 1st, 2016, I became part of Stark and Marsh. And then we set up an office in Assiniboia in the Prince of Wales complex. I don't know if any of you know where that is. It's where the theater is. And we're on the second floor, and we've been operating ever since, taking on new accounts and establishing a presence in the community. One of the reasons they moved into this area is because they felt that this area was very underserviced. And for me, being in the accounting field, yes, it was very underserviced and actually still is. So who's Stark and Marsh? I let Ashley figure that one out because I said, I'll say what you guys tell me to say. So this is just a table of contents. I'm going to start out telling you a little bit about the firm I work for. And then we're going to go into what is cash flow analysis. And from this point on, you'll be able to follow the handout that's in your presentation package. And if you want to make notes, definitely go ahead and do so. Those are yours to keep. The next topic is going to be, why should a business do cash flow analysis? What can cause cash flow to be poor? And how can I improve cash flow? And then I've got a little example there for you. At the end, we'll do questions. So, Stark and Marsh. Stark and Marsh has had its roots in Saskatchewan since 1921. Today, we employ 80 people with full-time offices in Swift Current, Shaunavon, and Assiniboia, and remote offices in Cabery, Kyle, Leader, Maple Creek, Mancoda, Pontex, and Valparaiso. Swift Current is our head office, and probably 55 to 60 of the people do work out of that office. In the Assiniboia office, we have 2 partners that service our office, and the partners and I take turns. So 1 week, Shane Lacasse comes down, and he's in the office on the first Thursday of the month, and then the second Thursday of the month, I travel to Swift Current. The third Thursday is Leslie Neufeld, and she's another partner from Swift Current, and then on the fourth Thursday, I go back to Swift Current again. So we've constantly got people going back and forth. And with technology, the way that it is today, I work on Swift Current files, people in Swift Current work on Assiniboia files. I review files predominantly. And with our technology and our servers, we're able to review from a distance. One of our tax advisory guys, which they're the guys that do the really high-end corporate reorganizations and so on and so forth, he's actually living in Victoria, BC. And he works from there remotely. He does make trips into Swift Current, but that is where he's living now and where he plans to retire. And it works great having him out there. Modern technology has been a good friend to the accounting field. With a vision of being an exceptional professional services firm, the team at Stark and Marsh believes that meaningful relationships are the foundation for a successful business. Our mission is to provide valued service to our clients, opportunities for our colleagues, and contributions to our communities through volunteering and support for community events and projects. When we say professional services, we are a registered CPA firm. There's a lot of firms out there that are not CPA firms. People assume that they're CPA firms and think that anybody who's practicing accounting has to be a CPA, but actually we're one of the few professions that exist that you can open up your own accounting firm with your grade 10 if you want. There's absolutely no law stopping you, but buyer beware is all I can say. We see some pretty scary stuff that crosses our desks. Part of being a CPA firm is that we are governed under CPA Canada and CPA Saskatchewan. And they come and do, it's called a public practice review, but it's more or less an audit of our files that are randomly chosen. And they go through them with a list of criteria and guidelines, and we have to meet those guidelines. Because in their view, we're in a position where the public is placing trust in us to make decisions, and they want to make sure that we're meeting those standards. A firm that's not a CPA firm doesn't have to go through that. They're not governed at all. So if they're doing something wrong, it's only by an audit of the government that it would get caught, which hopefully doesn't happen. We certainly don't want that to happen to anybody. We offer accounting and advisory services for individuals and businesses. We specialize in tax advisory services, valuations, and transition planning, with a particular focus on agriculture. A lot of our staff, probably 2/3, have an agricultural background, grew up on a farm. A lot of them are producers themselves. Shane Lacasse, one of our partners, is a producer. Leslie also grew up on a farm, so they understand agriculture and the differences between agriculture and a regular business. But it's not to say that we don't do business year ends. We do them. It's just that with such a high ag focus in the area, we do end up doing a lot of ag. The transition planning, that's for when somebody wants to retire and they're passing the business down to their child, or they're looking at selling out, however they want to transition out. Valuations, if you're looking to sell your business, we have 2 certified business valuators on staff. One of them's a partner, one of them's a manager. And they will look at the situation in your business and actually come up with a value for you to sell it and value the goodwill and so on and so forth.
Do you happen to know off the top of your head how much that is?
It ranges a great deal based on the size of the business.
Got it.
Yeah. And tax advisory services, that's the high level complicated transactions. They also happen to be our go-to people. They make sure, that department makes sure that we're all keeping up on professional development. The tax changes every year. If you've got a complicated corporate reorganization, they're the ones that look after it. Myself, I'm more what you would call a relationship manager. So if somebody comes to the Assiniboia office, 9 times out of 10 you would be dealing with me as the file manager. I might not do the record keeping, I might not do the year end, but I'll review it. And then a more complicated year end, the partner will also review it. So that's kind of how we're organized. And now I'll jump into the actual presentation. So from here on, you can kind of follow your pamphlet. What is cash flow? Cash flow analysis is the evaluation of cash inflows and cash outflows. But where does cash flow come from? The first thing it comes from is your operations. So this is looking at your income statement, your statement of revenue and expense. So the first thing we do is we take your net income and we add back any expenses that are non-cash expenses. So that could be things like gain or loss on disposal of assets. The most common non-cash expense is your depreciation or amortization of your capital assets. So you're not actually putting money out for that expense, where the rest of your expenses and your income, you are. The next thing is financing activities. So what we mean by financing activities would be paying loans, receiving loan proceeds. If you were incorporated, it could mean issuing stock like common shares or preferred shares. It can also mean paying dividends to your shareholders. So if you pay a dividend to your shareholder and you're incorporated, that's obviously going to bring your cash down, okay? So those are the types of things we call financing activities. And the last thing is investing activities. The most common investing activity is purchasing capital assets. Just to use an egg example, because it's very easy for people to understand, I'm sure you all know the price of land nowadays is like $350,000, $400,000 a quarter. So cash flow becomes really, really important investing in investments. So you might have, money sitting in mutual funds or segregated funds through a life insurance company or something like that. So that's your most common investing activities. And that's where cash flow comes from. Why should a business do cash flow analysis? I find it kind of ironic that that's what you guys voted on, was cash flow analysis, because we've been talking about this a lot in our firm, especially with even ag having 2 bad years in a row. And for the first time, we're actually starting to get into providing cash flow analysis services, sometimes even at the request of the bank, because the bank wants to see that this business can generate enough cash flow to meet its obligations. So there's lots of reasons to do cash flow analysis. The first one, and the most common one, is to help you set up a budget. Now, a lot of businesses don't have a budget, right? You wing it, right?
We're still at the winging it.
Yeah, the money comes in, it goes out just as fast as it comes in, and
Yeah,
hopefully
that's
there's enough left over to put supper on the table. So what I would do is, if I was looking to set up a budget, I would look first at my historical information and get that summarized, and then I would study my historical information to see, okay, what can I do better? There's always some weak spot that could improve your cash flow. Myself, when I was self-employed, my problem was to sit down and do my own darn invoicing. I would look after everybody else, make sure that my clients were happy, and invoicing when I got time. And meanwhile, when you're almost to the point where it's like, oh my God, I've got a stack of bills, my credit card is piling up, I'm gonna starve then all of a sudden you do all this billing. Well, obviously not a good choice for cash flow. Myself, the reason I did it that way is because I never got angry at myself if I didn't get my invoicing done, where if I didn't get the work done for the client, they would get angry at me. So the squeaky wheel gets the grease. And whoever screams the loudest gets the attention. But right there, that would have been the #1 thing that I could have done to improve my cash flow, is get my billing done. If it's sitting in work in progress, or it's sitting in inventory and you're not getting that inventory out the door, you're not generating a cash flow, okay? So that would be where you would start, is let's set up a budget. The next thing is, okay, we're running pretty good. We've got things going the way we want. we wanna buy some capital assets, or maybe it's inventory, maybe we're gonna